Co-Chairman Daniel Orrs. Chairman Bill Lewis.
Present.
Commissioner Chris Wilhelmy.
Here.
Commissioner Steve King.
Here.
Commissioner Sean White.
Here.
Commissioner Martin Trujillo.
Here.
And we have a quorum. Oh. You just have to read your opening statement and then we
Okay.
can do,
And then we do
Swearing
the
in.
swearing in?
yes.
Okay. Thank you all for attending the Planning Commission hearing. Before I begin, I'd like to state that the interests of public and staff safety, the town of Monument is currently following CDC and Governor Polis's recommendations of less than 10 people in the boardroom. Last week, the planning department posted the plan for a hybrid planning commission meeting tonight, which included the public's ability to view each project on our documents on demand portal and to email in questions about each project. Additionally, similarly to the Board of Trustees meeting, the public may attend the meeting via registering with our WebEx software. Those instructions were also available on the town website and on the various social media outlets. The Planning Commission's role is to conduct public hearings to make recommendations for the Board of Trustees about land use matters in the town of Monument. Agenda and packet materials for this meeting. All of the meetings are available on the town's website. Planning Commission's bylaws are also on the website, and should anyone wish to become a planning commissioner or an alternate, you may find an application on the town's website as well. Each commissioner agrees to non-partial, objective, and fair review. Should a commissioner wish to disqualify himself for any conflict of personal or financial interest in this matter before us tonight, please say so. For those who are attending tonight's public hearing via WebEx, please ensure that you raise your hand in WebEx and speak directly to the commission so you can be heard. To ensure a timely and fair hearing, we ask that if multiple people have the same comment, only one person speak on that same subject. Once the public hearing portion is closed, the applicant or staff will be offered an opportunity to provide rebuttal. The commission may ask additional questions at that time. I will then close the public comment session and the commission will deliberate and discuss the proposal. Thank you, and this concludes the introduction. We'll begin the first item on the agenda tonight, which is swearing in of a new PC member.
Up there. Right here.
Ideally around a microphone would be great.
All right. Step up to the microphone.
Oh, okay.
That one over there. Either one.
Yeah. As long as we can get you somewhere close to it.
Okay.
I can talk loud.
You ready for the oath of office?
I am ready.
Okay. You have your crib sheet?
I do.
Okay.
Do I
Raise
just,
your right hand, please. I, Kathy Green, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly
I, Kathy Green, do solemnly, sincerely, and truly
declare and affirm that I will support
declare and affirm that I will support
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the United States,
the Constitution and statutes of the state of Colorado,
the Constitution and statutes of the state of Colorado,
the ordinances of the town of Monument,
the ordinances of the town of Monument,
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Planning Commissioner
and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of Planning Commissioner
for the town of Monument upon which I am about to enter.
for the town of Monument upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we have to, with our chairman having moved out of the town of Monument, we need to vote for a new planning commission chairman and planning commission co-chairman. Whoops, I'm sorry. That's all right. No, I'll try to get it so you don't have to do it all night. So we need to vote for a new planning commission chairman and planning commission co-chairman. There are two people that are eligible, as I understand at this point. Myself, Gary.
Chris, it's all right.
Chris.
It's okay.
Chris. And
That's all right.
therefore, I will open the floor for nomination.
I hereby nominate Danny, Commissioner Danny, for the position of PC Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Since there's only two of us, I'm not going to ask for any more nominations because that would really get us in a jam. And Chris will be the co-chair, correct?
Thank
I
you.
guess we should vote. Do we need to vote? All right, good idea. Okay, I'm opening the meeting for the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to the,
To approve the minutes.
oh.
Yep.
That's not on my. Okay, need approval of the minutes for the August 12th meeting. Do I hear any,
I move that the minutes from the August 12th Planning Commission I move that the minutes from the August 12th Planning Commission meeting be approved as written.
I hereby second.
got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I want to make a comment, by the way. I read those minutes. And I want to congratulate this board. There's a lot of interest by our public related to the trail. And the minutes certainly reflected that this commission was as equally concerned with that matter and asked that full consideration be given to eliminating the difficulty that the crossings may have, but it certainly was not in the power of this commission to correct that because of pre-approval. So I want to congratulate, even though I wasn't present and accounted for. Okay. I'll turn it over to the commission, to the planners for the tonight's agenda item.
Oh, we're ready to go on a public hearing? Well, then Oh, okay. Well, commissioners, as Steve Harvey would say, we got a good one for you tonight. This one is a request for approval of annexation of zoning. We're calling the J. Nelson, happens to be the name of the individual that owns the property that we're concerned about, Jacinda Nelson. This is located north of Second Street and west of Front Street, and it's about 0.718071 acres. That's around 3,000 square feet, maybe a little less. So it's a small parcel. If you look at this map, you'll see that the brownish area is an enclave. An enclave is a piece of property that is totally surrounded by the town. The annexation process is different, especially when it's initiated by the town, which is what we're doing here. So I will talk about it, but we have some reasons we think that this needs to happen, and certainly the owner is interested in adding a small piece of property that you see that says to be annexed, that's behind her house, to add to the value of her property and be able to sell it and hopefully get it converted from our perspective from residential to commercial, because it's in the downtown core and it's in the B zone. There's a little bit of a close-up. You see second and front intersection, the house itself with the arrow on it. The colored parcel is the parcel that was obtained by the owner through a court action. I think it was fairly amicable. In other words, this person's been using that land for some time, and the owners of the larger parcel that is a part of have decided to go ahead and grant her the right to have that, so it's been deeded by court action. She also, with this added piece of land, can access Second Street, which provides another opportunity for it to be used commercially with the access off of Second and the frontage on Front Street. So I went over quite a bit of this already. Again, there's currently a house on the property obtained through court order. This piece of property that we're going to annex, or want the request being annexed. She wants to sell it. We want to see it turned into some commercial use and be more compatible with the core downtown area. The comprehensive plan shows the area as BC Business Campus. So what we intend to do is have this zone B, business, which all of the other property around it is. You might wonder what might happen to the rest of that enclave. Well, we do intend to annex that, and in fact, if you look at it literally, we can annex it at any time because it's an enclave. But we prefer that the landowners be willing to do so. And so that's where we're at with the balance of the parcel. That's an enclave. Hopefully that's enough information, or you can ask me questions, of course. But staff does recommend approval of this annexation, and that it be zoned B, business zone, based on the findings that the proposal complies with all standards and criteria for approval. Questions, please.
So I have a couple questions just because I'm curious. So this is the old Henry Limbach's house that is for sale right now, right?
Yeah, I believe that Jacinda Nelson is the estate owner of the property. She's actually listed as the owner now, but I think that is what occurred.
And the property just to the north, it used to be like an old general store or something.
Right. I'm
That's
not sure.
also for sale.
Yeah, and I'm not, it's a different owner. I'm not sure if it was, I think it was a combination of uses. I never really understood it, whether it was residential upstairs, business downstairs, all residential.
Right.
Never seemed to be a, was it?
Yeah, it was Cy Seibel's old house.
Yeah.
Used to be mayor here.
Yeah, that's to the north.
And so it looks like that enclave also encompasses the barn that's back there, which is part of that
Which is
property
owned
to
by
the
Seibel
north.
as well. Yes.
So their house is also for sale, or, whatever you want to call it, but it's also for sale. So they're not coming to you and asking about annexing the rest of that property?
I have not talked to them. The town manager might have. When I got back off furlough, he gave me this and said we need to get this done. I haven't talked to anybody but Jacinda Nelson to let her know how we're going to get this done. I know he's been in contact, I don't know how much, with the other property owners, including Seibel. And that's what the objective is, to make sure if we annex, it's something that's going to benefit them and they want to have done.
So, and you also said that they have access to Second Street, but really they got to cross that property to get to the garage in the back of there. So how does that work?
This was done with a part of the adjudication of the property change through deed and court action. They also gave her an easement.
Oh, I got you.
And so
Okay.
the objective is going to be that both properties back there will have one driveway. And she'll be able to use it to get the back of her property, and the Seibels will be able to, or any future owner, use it to get to that property as well.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
I haven't seen the easement. I assume it's some kind of common access situation.
Right. Okay, that's all I had. I was just curious about that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Drew. I have a question. How is it that how is it that this 3.4 acres has managed to remain an enclave? Is it by the desire of the owners, or I don't know. What's the history that left this
Well,
the whole?
annexation of to the Front Street and Second Street, that part of town has been in the town since the beginning. I suspect everything west of that, west of this 3.4 acres was annexed at a later date. And so it's just the way things happen. And sometimes you have owners, depending on the time of their ownership and what they want to have go on, that don't want to be a part of the town for whatever reason. It could be physical, it could be emotional, it could be, I don't like the town, I don't know. But that's what we're working with them now. We believe it'd be beneficial to them to be in the town. We can't serve, for example, if they're going to develop that property in the county, we can't serve it with water until they annex. And so I think what happens a lot of times with these is that the owners don't have plans to further develop their property immediately. It's not a necessity to them to sell it off or improve it. And so they're just fine the way it is. And at some point down the road, like with this property we're talking about tonight, it becomes evident that it's better off in the town to be saleable and usable.
Have there been efforts in the past to annex this property, or have we just waited for the owner to come forward?
It's been discussed, but nothing, no actions taken. Again, I haven't personally talked to any of the owners involved other than Jacinda, and but I believe the manager has opened those conversations. And so I think we're dealing with a situation that I described. Family piece of property, fine the way it is, been used for years for certain purposes, didn't need the town's help. Maybe that'll change. I think that's what we're looking for.
I have a comment, just with some history that might be interesting.
Is your
Why tell
microphone on?
everybody how much history you have.
Sure. One thing that happened, the Seibels have passed away, so that's why their house is for sale. And Cy Seibel was mayor here for a long time. The barn had a horse in it, and so there was livestock back there that was considered a county use. We didn't allow it in the town, so they didn't want that annexed into the town because Cy wanted to keep his horse.
There you go.
Interesting. I just have one final question for staff. This 0.07 acres being its own parcel, how did that come to be? Did they work that through the county? How is that severable, or has it always been its own parcel?
No, I think it's been used by the house property that Nelson owns, and just simply hasn't been resolved legally. I don't know if it was a challenged taking or if it was amicable. I get the feeling that everybody just agreed that she's been using it, okay, and the court just finalized that action by creating a deed on that parcel.
So the court established a deed for that as an individual severable parcel.
Correct.
Interesting.
Because otherwise, the court is one of those actions is one of the few that can create a parcel under 35 acres without planning.
Okay. All right. Those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a question? Okay, I will then open up for public comment. Do we have any hands raised? Michael, we have added you. All you need to do is connect your audio and you can speak. Can you hear me? See you on now?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. This is my first time doing this. I had a question and a comment about
Michael, could I get you to give your full name?
Sure, it is Michael Weiner. I live off of Baptist Road.
Okay.
Okay. So I had a question and a comment about the Santa Fe Trail and the, I guess the pending changes to that area east of the trail and west of I-25. Based on what I heard sorry.
Well, that is not on the agenda.
Correct.
What you can raise the question a little later in the session. But now we're just concerned about comments of the public related to the 221 Front Street annexation. So if you would just stand fast and come back in.
All right. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Do we have any other comments from the public? Okay. With no other hands being raised, I'm going to close the public comments. Since there's no public comments, I would still, just in case the commissioner thought of a question that they didn't have before for Larry, I would open it up. Otherwise, well, with that, I would look for a motion related to the 221 Front Street annexation. I did. Didn't I close it? That's all right. You'll hear a motion.
I, Commissioner White, move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the 221 Front Street annexation based on the staff report findings, and the proposed development complies with all standards and criteria for approval.
Second, do I hear a second?
Second the motion.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Martin Trujillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Sean White,
Yes.
Commissioner Steve King,
Yes.
Commissioner Chris Wilhelmi.
Yes.
I mean, Co-Chairman Chris Wilhelmi. Sorry. Commissioner Bill Lewis
Yes.
and Chairman Daniel Orrs.
Yes.
Okay, we have a 6-1 vote, 6-0 vote.
All right. Now I will open up for non-agenda items, public comments for items that were not on the agenda tonight, which would bring Michael back in. Does he have his hand up? Okay.
Okay. Sorry again for talking out of turn there. My apologies. I have a question and a comment based on the pending changes to the land east of the Santa Fe Trail, west of I-25. It sounds like that was discussed in a previous meeting. My question is, I do not see the minutes from that previous meeting on the on your website that contains the meeting minutes. I think it's like a document website. How can the public see those minutes from that previous meeting?
It should be on Documents on Demand under PC agenda or minutes packets.
Yep, I see that.
It actually should be in the packet for tonight for last month's meeting.
Okay, so maybe it hasn't yet been published to the site.
It should be in the packet that was published for tonight, which was the minutes were approved at the beginning of this meeting.
Okay, all right. I will keep looking. Maybe I'm just on the wrong page here. Okay, my comment is that I had heard that there was an option to possibly move the trail to be closer to I-25 to avoid the issue of the business access. As a frequent user of the trail, I do not like this option. I'm not sure if it's up to this board to control that type of change. And so I suppose there's a second question in there as to whether this is the right place to bring up that concern or whether there's a different, more appropriate place to bring up that concern.
Do you want me to answer that?
Yes, Michael, yes, the city manager will respond to your question.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Mike Foreman. I'm the town manager. Currently, we are working with the developers and also with the county. It is the county's responsibility to approve any kind of movement of the trail. And so we're looking at working with the county and the developers to be able to move that from the current development to the east side of the development. There'll be a public comment period for that. We've talked to the parks director for the county, and there'll be several opportunities for you to comment with the county during that process. The reason why we're looking at relocating the trail is that currently some of the developments it goes through, they have an agreement with the county that goes back 12 years where they can have 9 crossings through the existing location of the Santa Fe Trail. We feel like the developers can relocate it to the east side of their development and put it into a landscape easement. Today, like you said, you're a user of it, I am too. Today, it's just a flat surface that runs across an open area with no trees or anything like that. The developers have worked with us to design an area to where it will go above I-25. It's not really at the same level of I-25. It'll be above it. And it'll also be a landscape area that will be screened with some trees and landscaping from I-25. And so we feel like that it'll be a better location due to the fact that, you know, today it's right next to Old Denver Road, and Old Denver Road is a 2-lane county road, but we have plans to widen it to a 4-lane divided road that will have some pretty high traffic on it in the future also. And so we feel like that, and we're presenting to the county that we feel like that it'll be in a better location, in a safer location by moving it on the east side of the development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that makes sense, except for, you know, as you've seen, when you travel the rest of the Santa Fe Trail, there is a pretty good barrier between I-25 and the trail. That section of trail, if it is moved close to I-25, will likely be the least appealing and least attractive portion of the Santa Fe Trail, and I think that would really be a shame for this town. I'm not sure if having 9 crossings is going to be appealing either. It's really unfortunate that you're having to choose between those two options. Having less crossings, but keeping the trail closer to the current location or at the current location, at least in my opinion, would be preferable to moving it close to I-25, as the noise from I-25 and the visual distraction of I-25, I think, would be pretty terrible by comparison. That's my opinion. I'm sure other people have their own opinion, but that's mine.
Well, like I said, there'll be a public comment period and like, it's not the town's decision to move it. It is the county's. And so they'll be the last decision-making entity to be able to rule on this. And so I'd invite you to comment with them.
Okay. Yeah. So is the town requesting that it be moved, or is the town just asking the county to consider the options?
The town's requesting for it to be moved.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Thank you. And
All right. Thank you.
you're welcome. Do we have any other public speakers?
Hey, Mike, is that 9 crossings or 6? I thought it was 6.
Hello, this is Dan Showalter. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
Can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. I live in Monument. My name's Dan Showalter. I live across from Old Denver Highway in one of the subdivisions that is adjacent to the soon-to-be developed land to the east of the Santa Fe Trail. And while I echo Mr. Wiener's concerns about the trail itself, I am also concerned at the results of last month's meeting and the rezoning. And specifically, I worry about overdevelopment and the high density housing that is a potential for there. I know there is nothing specific planned. And I really don't have any questions, but I wanted to just put this on record as saying, I felt that last month only Mr. King was really representing the interests of the folks that live in this part of town. And I appreciate the fact that he recognizes his role to be an advocate for the residents. And I would ask that when future decisions are presented to the rest of the board, that you would advocate for the residents over, or maybe in addition to revenue for the town.
Okay. Any other comments? Dan, do you have any other comment? I would like to respond to that. I wasn't at the meeting, but I do know that each of the commissioners worked very hard to represent the people of our community. But there are certain items that the landowners have a right. And so the commission, unless they're breaking a code, unless the planners have brought to us a project that there's something in the code that is contrary to what they brought to us, it's not possible for this commission then to say no. But I would say that the commissioners that are sitting on this board tonight are commissioners that will go forward and ask when there's a question about something like that to represent the people. Will go forward and make recommendations and request that the Board of Trustees and that the uh, applicant consider doing certain things that they find to be in the best interest. But I guarantee you that if this commission, in fact, rejects something or make a strong proposal to reject something, it would do so. But I appreciate your comments, and I would hope that when we're back in sessions, when you can come sit in and listen to planning commission meetings, that you would do so. Do we have any other public comments? Who was the lady at the door? Okay, all right. Then I will close the public comments for non-agenda items. Any reports and communications now? Commissioners have any reports or any communications?
No, but I'd like to respond to what you just said, because I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. In this particular case, these property owners had a right to industrial zoning, which they had approved, but they did not have a right to add commercial or high density residential. They asked for that. They gave up the heavy industrial use kind of as a carrot, but technically they're asking for a rezoning of that property. So we do have the right to say no. It's not, that property wasn't zoned for that. So we do have those options, and we have the right to modify that too. I mean, we can put in conditions, and we can do, there's a lot of things we can do, especially with the rezoning. If they were just changing the zoning of that property from an outdated zone use to a new zone use that encompassed the same criteria, then I would agree with you, but they asked for additional uses.
Well, I wasn't at the meeting,
Right.
but was there a condition put forward?
No, but
then-
but I'm just saying, we can disagree with that. We can vote against that. It's not a slam dunk when they come in and do something like that.
Well, it's a slam dunk if there's a condition that can be put forward that says that the planners have clearly overlooked a code item.
Right, but
That
it isn't a code item. They asked for a rezone. They asked to change the
And-
zoning uses from one use to a different use.
And
And we can override that.
Well-
Just because it comes with a recommendation, everything that comes from the planners is going to be recommended, or it's not going to get to us. But that doesn't mean that we have to approve it.
see, what I said is not contrary to that, because a condition could have been put forward, but it was not put forward.
Sure, but we can also just reject it.
Did we reject it?
Well, no, as a cumulative vote, no. I mean, I rejected it, but
Well, but the point that I think should be made is a commissioner can put forward a condition, and if it's a valid condition and it's second, it can be approved or disapproved and move forward to the board of trustees or not.
right. Or it could just strictly be a no vote, or it could be a yes vote and go to the board of trustees and they could vote it down or change it
Yeah,
or modify it.
Yes.
Mhm.
But,
Right.
so I wasn't saying that we can't do things, but there needs to be a valid reason why we say that the planners have provided us something that they shouldn't.
Well, in my case, the valid reason was high density multifamily and potentially big box stores. And that was enough for me personally, but I mean, everybody else has their own opinion too, so.
Well, but I would recommend next time you make a condition, see if you can get a second and then go forward. There's a valid reason to do that.
Sure, I
That's-
would agree with you. I'm just saying we have a lot of options, that's all.
Yeah.
if I could just add to the discussion, I think personally, I keep taking a look at each of these issues independently as they come, not the what can be. So our vote was on should we rezone? In my personal opinion, heavy industrial is not a fit for us right there. So I would like to see something else. My vote was based on the idea that we are going to see this plan again. And I did make the comment that I don't necessarily agree with the high density at the end. I don't think the traffic flow works in that area, and that's going to need to be addressed as well. So I would just recommend as we start looking at the programmatic side of all of this, these all have stages going, and the request I felt that came to us that night was, should it be heavy industrial or should it be the new zone? And in personal opinion, I thought it was the new zone.
Well, yeah, I agree. But, once we approve and give people a sketch plan, it's really difficult to take that back away later. And the fact of the heavy industrial use, I mean, in my opinion, nobody's building heavy industrial anywhere. I mean, they're not going to put that in. They threw that out of that just because they're not going to build that there, and they know that. So that's why I said it was a carrot, but what they really wanted was the apartments, and what they really wanted is the apartments, let's face it. And next to that, the option for commercial uses and other things. And, but it's going to be more difficult later to control, because you give them that's what I hate, these sketch plans. I just do. I mean, I wish everybody came to us with PUDs. You see it, everything is on it. It spells it out, what's going to go there, and that's what they get. And if they want to modify it, they got to come back. These sketch plans, they don't mean anything. They give you a whole bunch of density and they're going to use every single unit up. And I've been on that side. I've done those developments. We did it too. And I'm just saying, I know how the game's played, and they'll build every single unit, and they should. I mean, I would do the same thing. I'm not taking anything away from them. I don't blame any of them for asking what they asked for. I'm just saying that we have a lot of options that we can do on our own.
Well, and again, I was responding to Dan's comment, and I just was trying to make the point that I believe that every commissioner sitting up here tonight, and those that may not be here tonight that could be here, has the interest of the people.
Oh, I would agree with you 100% with that. I'm not taking away anything from anybody. I'm just saying we do have some options. That's okay.
Yeah. And I'll just add that I think what's lost here is this idea of the plan. And, it's not necessarily only a code or regulation or conceivably looking at something in a bubble. Looking at the entire town and looking how this particular request before us impacts the plan. And I think on the basis of the plan, we still have some power to demand an applicant to conform or change or do something that, it's not lost on me that even though that plan is ambiguous as it seems, there's still some thought and some guidance there that we can say, whether it's high density apartments, whether it's commercial, whatever it is, it's not fitting in either at this time or at that site. And utilizing that as a basis to challenge the applicant, I think is pretty powerful. And I agree with Steve. Like, I wish that it's not a sketch. It's like, this is what we're going to do. And the moment that deviation happens, it gives the ability. And I would ask even the staff, if that change, I know we're redoing things, and I say that extremely generically because I don't even know how to frame it, but the request of more specificity at certain steps in the process, I don't see why we can't change that or modify that rule going forward, of course. But the idea being specific is better to me, and it allows us to better contemplate what they're really thinking. Well, it could be 10 stories or maybe not. We don't know. Well, you're asking us for a zoning change that would allow that. and we're basing it on a we don't know. And so that kind of thing, is it possible to further amend or change our rules to make that applicant, the developer especially, or the person who's advocating on their behalf, to present specifics, like greater specifics? Can we do that?
So you're basically asking for, can we eliminate the sketch plan? And
A start, correct. Yes. Yeah. For better decision-making on this commission, so to speak.
Well, I'm not like avoiding your question, but I did want to bring up that in my years of experience, I've seen numerous changes in the way development occurs. From, for example, the Garden of Gods model, Garden of Gods Road. Put all your industrial here, put all your commercial there, isolate your other. That's changed. It's a business campus kind of atmosphere where people want to live close to where they work, or they want to be a part of a commercial area they can walk to. I think that's, at least from the overall big picture, what we're looking at as a market force that's coming towards us. I do understand your concerns. It should be something maybe we can explore with the rewrite of the ordinance and see what the consultants know and can do for us. They certainly have a bigger picture, looking at numerous communities that they've worked for and observed.
That would be awesome. I mean, just this idea of exploring it with the consultants, putting it to them and saying, at least from my perspective, that would be helpful to just have more, I don't know, oomph. Yeah. When you come to us.
I think from the developer point of view, when we talk to them and we have these kind of discussions with them, they want as much or as less specificity as possible so that they can market that product. You know, when you've got an owner that has a piece of land and he's looking at, how am I going to develop this land? How am I going to be able to market that to the end user? He wants as much flexibility as possible. And so I think there's a middle ground there, and that's what you're talking about, is there's got to be a middle ground there somewhere that works for the town of Monument.
Yeah, and
So
that,
we'll
yeah.
take a look at that.
Thank you. It's not something oppressive. It's really just, again, maybe what we're getting right now is just not satisfactory. So let's just take another step, and maybe that will be the solution. And I agree, middle ground is fine by me. It's just
Definitely.
getting there.
Good.
And I'd like to chime in and say, first of all, I think it's great that as a commission, we do have differing viewpoints. Not all of us are going to agree. And I think that diversity of thought and representation is going to serve the community well. I personally am not a hater of density. I think there's beauty in certain development. And when there's density, I think there's a place for it. And I think there's not a place for it. And not everyone agrees. And I think that's a good, healthy thing for a commission to have. But planning really is about balancing tensions. It's a tension between the rights of the landowner to get the most value out of that land and develop it in a way that's going to profit them to the greatest extent. And they have those rights. But it's also about balancing that tension of the community and what's good for the community in aggregate. And I think the best tool that we have to know what the community has asked for is, in fact, the comprehensive plan. That's a codified document that the community put together that says this is what we want. And there's lots of judicial precedents that gives weight to the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan can outweigh the rights of individual landowners when it's codified and agreed to by the town. So we got to balance those tensions. And when I look at what's there in the comprehensive plan for future land use for that corridor between I-25 and Old Denver Highway, there's commercial and there's attached residential and there's light industrial. And I think we always have to look at that too when we're making our decisions. This is the document that says what the community is okay with. And I believe that what we approved last month is not inconsistent with all of those land uses that were identified there. So I think we just got to keep in mind that we're always balancing between the landowner rights and the community rights as represented in the comprehensive plan. And the developer and the flexibility that they need in being able to make a development profitable without overcommitting too early. So I think it's all about those balances.
So, and I want to just respond to that a little bit because I'm not against density either. You know, like, I was on the planning commission in Inglewood for 8 years, and that's all we did was high density, right? It was all redevelopment, it was all high density, and it worked in that community in that location. What I like to see more spelled out is so what the town is okay with is what the properties are zoned for. That's what zoning is for. And when you change the zoning, then it's not really zoned that anymore. It's now zoned something different. And one of the biggest problems I had with this last project was it kind of doesn't have any zoning anymore. I mean, it's anything goes almost, you know? And so it's really not a zoned piece of property anymore. I mean, I guess you can't put a racetrack there or an airport, but you know, and nobody's going to put heavy industrial there. I think we all know that. So it kind of isn't zoned anymore. And I just think that that's why we have zoning. So the neighbors can understand what's going to happen. The town can understand what's going to happen and plan accordingly for utilities and other things. And the residents aren't going to be shocked when something crazy goes up there. And I'm not opposed to giving people flexibility either. It's just, I just feel like you kind of have to know what to expect. And then in this particular property, I don't have any idea what to expect, to tell you the truth.
Well, I would just respond that zoning, if it's to inform adjacent properties what to expect, then what we approved last week gave them something much better than what the zoning would have provided them. You know, it was zoned industrial, and I think it was just industrial, not heavy industrial, PID. Am I misspeaking? Yeah. So industrial could have gone in there. So my expectation as a homeowner, and I used to live right across the street, right there on gosh, I can't even remember my old street. Man, I've worked with my kids. Know what I live on now. Anyway, Woodfield, right off of Woodfield. So I should have the expectation that an airport or a race car track or a recycling center could go in there. And when I bought that property, I needed to know that that was a very real possibility because it was the zoning. But I think in the end, what we gave the residents there is better than what that zoning would have provided. Now, granted, market forces wouldn't have made that likely, but if zoning is to be the flag of what to expect, then they should have expected terrible things, and they're not going to get something so terrible. That's my view.
Yeah, we'll just keep pounding through all this stuff.
Good discussion. Any other comments? Great discussion.
Yeah, if I could just one, and I think the gentleman that brought up this issue brings up a discussion point. And as somebody that's in the public relations and marketing world, you know, how we communicate better with the residents and for him to say, you know, that we have to represent the residents, I couldn't tell you what they want, to be honest with you. And I am one a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, when that developer had a public meeting, went. And I wasn't on the planning commission. I lived in Monument. I was just curious what they were talking about. Beyond that, I would have had no idea what any of those families want. I think the next moving issue, target, however we want to phrase it, is the Santa Fe Trail. If you are a follower of Nextdoor, there was quite the discussion that went on Nextdoor this last week about the Santa Fe Trail move. As a planning commissioner, I didn't feel it was my place to weigh in and correct a lot of people on their assumptions and beliefs and how the rumor mill was going. But I think we can, as planning commissioners, do something like that. The rest of the officials within the organization can do things, but maybe we need to work with the local paper or something to do a story, because there is a lot of concern out there right now. So just throwing it out there, maybe the communications folks can work with the local paper and, hey, this is what's going on. And I appreciate you're bringing that up, that these are all the meetings that are going to happen. And this is the county's permission or position in this, because I do know there's a lot of misinformation out there right now. So that's my only comment. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I appreciate that because it kind of caught us off guard too. You know, when we saw the article that came out on Sunday, you know, everybody has the right to be able to publish whatever they want to, but there was a lot of misinformation in that. And I think one of the other news agencies is going to address that. They've sent an email to us this week or today, and I think they're going to address that and try to make some corrections to some of the misinformation that was given out. The town currently is not prepared to put anything out because we don't know what we're going to be able to do based on the fact that we are going to have public meetings with the county. The county is going to have public meetings. That we've met with their parks director, and we don't know what their position is right now. We've got a meeting with them coming up on Thursday. Monday, we have a meeting with them on Monday to further discuss what the options are. You got to remember, this kind of started with this board, with this commission, when we started reviewing some of these. And I think the direction was, let's go out there and see what we can do. And that's what we've been doing. We've been working with the developers. We've been working with the landowners, and some of the Andrea and some of the others have worked with us and given us free time. They've done a design for us that we would have had to pay thousands of dollars for. And so we've got partners in this, and we're taking it step by step. And I think what you're saying is we know we have to do a public education on this, and we want to do that. I just don't think we're prepared to do it right now, because if I told you we're going to move it to the east, I might be wrong. Like the gentleman said today, there may be an option to move it in the middle, maybe. And so I think that's what Tim with the Parks Department, he's aware of that. He is very entrenched with some of these people like Mike that spoke today that use that trail. He made us aware of this last week, that there may be some people that don't want it moved, and they would like it exactly where it is, and they want it. They're willing to deal with the 6 to 9 crossings, and versus having it along I-25. So we've made the developers aware of this. We've talked about, can we put extra landscaping there? We've applied for a grant. We're applying for a grant right now with GOCO. And so some of the suggestions that they have come from people that work for GOCO that live in Colorado Springs that use the Santa Fe Trail and Monument. And so they're talking about, hey, can we put some benches out there? Can we put some workout areas out there? And so we've got a lot of people that are working together to make this a successful move if it happens. And I'd like to key in on that, if it happens. So right now it's just a suggestion. It's just a idea that we're looking at. There's no guarantees that the Santa Fe Trail is going to move. The developers are prepared to build it exactly where it is today, to provide the safety crossings that are required by the county and required by the town. They're willing to do that, but they're also willing to listen to the town based on our information from the commission and from our trustees that, hey, if we want to move it, they're willing to partner with us to do that. But we have to have the approval of the county to be able to do that.
Man, I appreciate that. I think that's a great public service announcement right there for those that are listening in or going to read the notes from, or the minutes from this meeting. I agree with everything you said. I was quite surprised and thought it was, just awesome that there actually was a discussion after we left that one planning meeting where we were like, what, this is not workable, all these crossings, what can we do? So for the town to go out and be aggressive with this and start the conversations, I applaud you for it. And I agree. I mean, there's going to be folks that don't want it here and don't want it there, and some tough decisions are going to be made, have to be made. I guess for the sake of those that are listening or will read it, what involvement or interaction with the county would you recommend them have? Reach out to our local commissioner, or what, I mean,
I would actually reach out to the Parks Director, Tim, what's his last name? Walken, yeah, Tim Walken, and you can get on their website and find his information on there. Tim Walken's going to be the one that's going to be directing the action for the county on this. So I think he's a great person to contact.
yeah, thanks. I think that's great. And I think that's for the folks in Monument that are concerned. That's great information for them.
One of the, and I'm going to reiterate, Bill, what you were saying. I mean, obviously, from the marketing perspective, is there something the town can do, put the Santa Fe Trail and put the markers on there for the individuals to attend the meetings, to have those emails for Bill, instead of, fishing for them, giving them all the variables that they need to become very successful so they can voice those opinions.
Yes, we can do that.
Yeah,
Definitely.
next door right now is blowing up.
Right.
And just like Bill, same thing. I see those. It's just they don't understand the zoning. They don't understand a lot of the variables. But I think if we take the step forward to actually give them, this is who you need to respond to. This is where it's at. We're talking about zoning. We're not talking about anything going in there now because of the conceptual plan. But I think it needs to be understood by the common layperson there that's going to look at it and say, oh, okay, I need to go to this meeting and this is what I need to voice.
Right. We can definitely do that. And I think one of the things that people don't realize too is this isn't happening tomorrow.
Yes.
I think some of the fears is we're going to move the Santa Fe Trail tomorrow. It's actually probably not going to be, if it was approved to be moved, it probably wouldn't be moved for 2 to 3 years. We're not going to move that trail without development happening. And so I think you're looking at whatever you approve today probably is going to happen 2 to 3 years from now. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for public input.
So one of the things that I always struggle with, and it happens in all these meetings, is that residents don't show up. And so when the one gentleman said, that I was being an advocate, I agree with Bill. I don't know if I'm being an advocate because I don't know what they want. And, but it seemed fairly clear, and I'm going to ask Larry this question, that there wasn't a lot of notices that went out there. So it's a 500-foot radius, correct? Is that what it is?
Yes, for a normal public hearing, a rezoning of this nature. Yes.
So like on this particular property, you got Old Denver Road there that's probably got what, an 80-foot right of way, and then 50 feet for the Santa Fe Trail before you even get to the property. You're already over 100 feet. Is
I'd
that
have to skip those items. Measure their 500 feet.
okay? Yeah. Because the one guy that was here said that nobody got any notices. 500 feet deep into that property would seem like it would cover quite a few houses, but so I don't really know what to make out of that. I mean, nobody shows up, so you don't know what they want or don't want.
Yeah, and I think part of what staff gave to me was, I can't remember if it was last month, we received about 18 emails, and I think several people were online that night. And so we kind of balanced that. Every one of those emails was, we want the Santa Fe Trail moved. We don't want to cross 9 crossings. And so we kind of started the process based off of those emails. And so we felt like that was good input from that neighborhood. And at that time, we'd received nobody that had said, we don't want it moved, up until the article came out on Sunday. When the article came out on Sunday, I agree with you, next door blew up. And like we said, I think there was some misinformation. It wasn't, nobody had asked us any questions or anything like that. And so we wish they would have, and we could have probably cleared up some of these questions ahead of time. But also I think it's key that they can always call me. I'm available. I have my mobile phones on the website and everything like that. So, anytime you want to call my mobile phone or anything like that, call me, and I'll be glad to have this discussion. We go out and talk to HOAs and stuff like that anytime. So there's a lot of opportunities for me to get out in the public and start having these discussions. We weren't prepared to do that up until today. And so we're definitely prepared to have those discussions with anybody that wants to discuss the relocation of the Santa Fe Trail.
Just to chime in, it seems like one of the challenges, and I think it is a reasonable challenge, is to look at the notice that's given. To Steve's point, the 500-foot, I understand that to be just certified mail only. And I've even received notices that I wasn't home when certified mail was attempted to be delivered, and certainly a couple weeks later, go to the post office to get this particular letter. Maybe it was still there, maybe it wasn't, but when I did get it, it was the notice. And so I don't see it necessarily as something we can't overcome, because I don't want the citizens to feel like they're late to the party or that they just didn't know. And we heard from one user who conceivably would have never gotten written notice of the agenda item from last month. He was not within the proximity, but he certainly uses the trail. And the idea being that he's a citizen of the community, he wasn't subject to written notice. What I would challenge staff and even this commission would be to come up with just, I don't want to inundate anyone. I want to just have, and I've been asked, well, how can I find out? And I always direct to the Planning Commission's website. And that's about as far as it goes. Because sometimes, well, what's coming up? I don't even know yet, but stay tuned. So the idea being that if that notice that either should be posted, because it has to be, could be presented online as a, this is what is coming up, something as simple as that, or also requiring of developers or whoever's coming to the commission to mail regular and certified. I don't see that as costly. I don't see it as burdensome, especially to conceivably an entity that's going to make a lot of money on this. And I think that there, at least, if it's still going to be the 500 feet, if there's still going to be mailings, that certified to me just doesn't do it. And as an attorney, sending out certified mail half the time doesn't do it. That's why the courts accept regular mail and the perception that it's been received. So I would challenge, again, this board to come up with creative ideas for the marketing piece, for the, we're earning and we're constantly earning the community's trust, and making sure that, again, this is not a surprise, and giving them the information they need.
We do post in the newspaper. We do post on social media outlets, not just our website, but on Facebook and Nextdoor and other social media outlets. And we also have our sign that we have to post as well. And we have projects around town on our website. So there are many ways that residents can be informed, but they have to take it upon themselves to want to know.
Of course.
So,
No, of course. And I love to hear that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear.
And the Connexa sign has been on Old Denver Road for almost a year already.
Yep.
So if they had questions about what's going there, they could have contacted any of us,
Sure.
any of you, any of us, any staff. But we do let the public know in many different ways
And
that the project is coming, that once we receive that check for development review, and we let the whole town know on our projects around town that a project is being reviewed right now.
Yep.
And we do have some people that are interested and want to know more, but there's most community members don't want to know. They just live their lives. But then when something comes up that they don't agree with, because they see a rumor on Nextdoor about something, that's when they become aware and they want to know more about a project. But when you live in a town, if you want to know what's going on, you need to take it upon yourself and look at the website and newspaper articles. And our community news, who comes to every one of these meetings, the recorder up there, they post every single article about what happens at our planning commission in their newspaper, and they do a very good job explaining it.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
And here for the efforts. That's the best position to be in, of course. And I've gotten comments where my question back was, why weren't you there? I mean, it's so disappointing when, no one's really participating. But as long as, to your point, we can say for sure it's out there, it's for you to make a move on. That's all we can say. So I love it.
Yeah, and I think Debbie's very passionate about that because she's helped lead some of those efforts with our staff. That Madeline Vanderhook leads our social media efforts, and she's done a really good job of making sure that we all know about it. It's all on there. We all share it. I now have a Twitter account and I have Facebook. That it hits my Facebook, it hits my Twitter, and I share that with everybody that friends of mine. And I think that's that's key, that we all need to do that. You know, if we want the public to get it out, we need to tell the public ourselves too. And so as employees, and especially as one of the leaders of the community, I take it upon myself to make sure that we do that. And I think we have a great staff that's working on making sure that this community is well aware of all the events that are going on. I think Madeline and Debbie and Erica Romero is another one, and Laura Hogan, they all do a really good job of making sure that this community is aware of all of our meetings that are going on.
And again, I applaud it. And I think that's fantastic. That feedback is solid, and keep it up. That's all I can say. Thank you.
And it's interesting to note, I'll just bring this up, that Nextdoor was blowing up over this, but we had 2 people show up online to comment on this. So I get that. This is always a problem, especially with the planning commission. People just don't show up. They might show up for the board of trustees, but they don't show up for us very often unless it's really something that's animated the town.
Any other comments? Well, again, in summary, I'll say that this commission made comments about that when they were considered, when the project was being considered, and this commission put comment conditions on there requesting that attention be given to this matter. Town manager took it up, planners took it up, and the applicants took it up. So again, I'll say the diversity of opinion, but I believe that the people sitting on this commission had a darn good feel for what the people were going to want to happen. Any other comments? All right, with that being said, do you have anything, Larry?
No, just thank you for showing up and representing the community and your service.
Okay. I have one announcement. The next meeting date is a special meeting on September the 23rd. It's currently being planned, and it has to do with the Falcon Commerce Center. Correct, Debbie? And that will be on September 23rd. And without any other comments coming forward, I would adjourn the meeting. Yeah.
Appreciate it.